We are live with an incredible group of people led by Stefania Ferrario out of Melbourne, Australia. She is a supermodel who is using her skills for animal rights. Before she talks, let's see exactly what she's done along with her incredible team in the lingerie protest trailer.
Unfortunately, the media and the news seldom report on this topic.
In the dairy industry, the male calves are murdered.
It's not like we want to do these things. We feel that we have to.
We need to do whatever it takes to help wake people up, to make the unconscious conscious.
The future of our planet is at stake. And if I gotta go out there naked, I'll do that.
And this is an Unchained TV collaboration with Cave Light Films. The film director is also here. But first, Stefania, wow. How do you get it together to go out and bear all for the animals?
Well, luckily, because of the sort of work I do a lot of modeling, whether it be fashion, swimwear, lingerie. It's second nature to me now. And I have done lingerie jobs out in public where I showcase new sets of lingerie for certain brands. So taking this next step and going out in lingerie for a cause and this idea wasn't too much of a big sort of move for me. It was quite natural, although it was scary because talking publicly about animal rights and veganism and what we can do as individuals tends to get a bit of backlash. So that's where my fear sort of came primarily from, not so much going out there in very little clothing. But the response was fantastic, and it just propelled me more to want to do this more and more in the future. And yeah, to see it taking over and to see so many people around the world joining in and doing lingerie protests is just fantastic.
Well, you have inspired so many people to do this. Wow. One of them is Jamie Logan. You went out on the streets of New York. Go get him, girl. Wow.
Can you imagine?
What was that like?
Well, after seeing Stefania's incredible work in Australia, I was like, we got to bring this to New York City. This is amazing. I mean, it was just getting so many reactions on social media. So I got a little group together and we started doing these lingerie demos on the streets of New York. And it was just eye-catching. It was just, it got people talking, and it really got people to look at the issue at hand, which is animal agriculture.
Well, I see my old alma mater there in the background, NYU. There you are in Greenwich Village, I believe. What was the reaction? You're in the center, looking good, by the way, gotta say. What was the reaction amongst those students and chess players and others who frequent that Greenwich Village Park?
I mean, it was just mostly positive reactions. I was standing there shaking. Unlike Stefania, this is something that was a little outside my comfort zone. But I just kept the animals in mind, and I just kind of stood there and I had great conversations with people. So, besides all of the, you see all the pictures, you see people looking, like people were coming up to us. We had flyers, we were giving facts, we were really engaging the public. So it was definitely different than a lot of protests that I've done before, but it was very effective. It was great.
We are talking about the lingerie protest. It's a series of protests started by Stefania that have now gone global. Women and some men all over the world are taking it off for animal rights. This is an original short you can see on Unchained TV, the app. Just download Unchained TV and on your iPhone, your Android phone, or one of your TV devices like Roku, Amazon Fire Stick, Apple TV device, Samsung TV, the smart TVs. You can just put in Unchained TV and it'll pop right up. So let's go to the filmmaker. Jordan Ehrlich, you did a great job, but full disclosure, correct me if I'm wrong, Jamie is your girlfriend. What was it like?
I'm not.
No.
Oh,
no, she's my She's my
It's
associate
okay.
producer and has been working with me for about 1.5 years now on various films about animal agriculture. I actually met her at a slaughterhouse. Well, actually, I met her at an animal rights march, and we ended up doing a film about her at a slaughterhouse in Newark, New Jersey. And then she came to work with me on the last few films. And so, this one was tough because she was in the film, but I also wanted, someone who was experienced it to help give me insight into, make sure I was getting the story right and like really understanding from their point of view what was going on in their heads. And, I obviously interviewed Stefania, and I interviewed a bunch of other activists who were in these protests, and tried to get a really well-rounded view of what was happening, what was at stake for these women, and some men who came afterwards, became part of the protests afterwards, and really tried to get to the heart of what they were doing and was it working? And it did seem to be working.
Well, first of all, I'm embarrassed as if I had taken all my clothes off and gone outside. I always see you guys on a meeting together, and I just figured you never assume. It's the first rule in journalism. Okay, but let me ask you, as a man videotaping this, because in the film, there's this older woman who's put your clothes on. She's offended as if these women are exploiting themselves. But the truth is, and I think you put it very well, Stefania, is that you're choosing this. Animals have no autonomy over their own bodies. They can't choose whether they want to be exploited or not. Take that away, Stefania.
Yeah, well, it is an interesting thing when people say, oh, you're exploiting yourself, or you're giving into the patriarchy, or these sort of typical responses, which were seldom, by the way, when it came to the responses from the public. The majority of people were very positive. But it's funny because we're fighting for the rights of animals that have got absolutely zero say over their bodies, zero say over their autonomy, what's going on. They're having all their rights taken away from them. They're being abused physically, they're being mutilated, they're being enslaved their entire lives. And then one thing that they have, which is their life, is then taken away from them. So it's quite ironic when people say, what are you doing? You're exploiting yourselves. It's actually the opposite. I'm using my power, my ability to be able to express myself freely to fight for those that don't have that at all.
So well put. And your look, I must say, is very iconic. It kind of has, I'm sure you've heard this many times before, a Marilyn Monroe-esque kind of look. And I just wanted to ask you, is that intentional? Is that accidental? What is your look?
Well, it's pretty accidental because I started off with a shaved head, like a buzz cut, in my early days of modeling. Well, actually, I had long dark hair, and then I shaved it all off, and I would bleach it blonde, very short. And then I just started growing it out. And as it grew out, it turned into more of a sort of Marilyn 50s look. So it was unintentional, but now I quite like it. And I do love that sort of vintage aesthetic as well.
And you have also done a lot of work for PETA against the use of wool. How does all this affect your modeling career? Obviously, fur is dead. The big designers are giving up fur. It's become an embarrassment. And so thanks to the work of people like yourselves and PETA and other big organizations, we've made progress in the fashion world. But is there any pushback from you model for some of the biggest brands, and you reportedly said you're not going to use animal products. You're not going to display or model for animal products in your advertisements. What's the reaction in the industry?
Yeah, so I've rocked up to modeling jobs. This is after I've stated in the contract that I won't wear any fabrics derived from animals. And I've showed up and they've had wool or alpaca, and I've had to say, I'm not going to wear that. And therefore, half the outfits have been cut for the day. And possibly, well, actually, I'd say most definitely I have lost clients because of this choice. But I guess I look at the bigger picture and I look at what's right as well. And I don't want to be, the short-term gain, the monetary gain from modeling these few items, when in the long run, I don't want to be supporting any of that. So I've definitely, I'd say, lost clients because of that, or probably upset them being on set and refusing to model it. But overall, it's been pretty good, I'd say. They have catered to me in that respect, or taken out items that might have feathers on and things. But one of the big things that has been gravely affected is my social media accounts. So although my lingerie protests got an incredible response online, and there's some of my biggest performing posts with well over 100,000 likes, thousands of comments shared across the internet and going viral, I have actually lost tens of thousands of followers across all my social medias, Facebook, Instagram, you name it. And these days in the modeling industry, having a large social media presence and a following is crucial to getting jobs and for clients to see you, because you have an audience to sell to. So when that starts getting affected, your work can get affected as well. So I have seen a decline in, followers across social medias as well. But once again, it's the bigger picture. I'm looking at the long term, and I just don't want to be supporting that. So if I'm going to be making sacrifices here in the short term, so be it. And hopefully things will change sooner.
Well, bravo to you. And you're doing incredible activism by showing the people who make the decisions in the fashion industry, this isn't cool, that isn't cool. And it's always tough to be on the front lines of change. If change and compassion were easy, everybody be doing it. So you may have the unintentional effect or intentional effect of letting all of these big brands know, hey, what you're selling isn't cool when you're selling animal products, because so many people still are under this misimpression that, well, wool, don't they need to shear them? And then they haven't seen the videos that Pete has put out of the horror of wool. So you're doing an incredible job to educate. Let's get back to the psychology of all this, because honestly, if somebody told me, look, you got to go out and do that, I'm a bit of a coward on certain fronts. I have not been arrested. I have not taken off my clothes. How do you do it? Jamie, how did you get the gumption to go and do this?
I just saw that it was getting attention. And, in animal rights activism, we have to try out different things. We have to get creative. And, I've participated in numerous types of demos. I've gone to slaughterhouses, conducted rescues. I really just try to diversify my activism in hopes of reaching more people. So when I saw Stefania and a lot of the other women in Australia doing it, and when I saw the reach that it had on social media, I wanted to give it a try. And so it was just kind of like I picked out a pair of my lingerie and I stripped in the middle of Washington Square Park. Like, it was actually one of the more easy forms of activism, because really all you need is a sexy outfit and signs, and you just stand there and talk to people, which I'm very used to talking to people about animal agriculture. So
what was it like, though, when you were there? What does it feel like? Because look, this is spread around the world. Women all over the world are doing it, even in Japan, where the women were afraid of getting arrested if they stripped down. They did a variation on it, and they came up with this, which is really cute. Christmas outfits, Santa outfits. Boy, give them credit for going with the flow and figuring an end run around the problem. But what would it feel like for those watching, women and men? Because some men have done it as well. Let me put this photo up. There's a guy surrounded by women, but he is standing there, and we don't need to read the sign, but he's doing it. But the point is, for people who are looking at this and going, I'm intrigued. Well, I wear a swimsuit at the beach. What's the big deal? Let me do it. What's it like? Like, how do you do this? Maybe I'll throw that back to Stefania. Like, how do you actually do this? You just pick out a piece of lingerie and then you just storm out of the house?
There's a big psychological buildup, I have to admit. I was, in the hours leading up to it, I was very nervous. If it were a modeling job, I would have been fine. I was probably more fine than the average person because of my career. But the build up to it was very nerve-wracking. And it was also the middle of winter here in Australia. So everyone else in the city was wearing lots of coats, lots of layers. And we were there ready to strip down to nothing. Look, it was the build up. And then once we took off our robes and we got out there, all the fear disappeared and it felt normal. And the response was fantastic. And after a while, you didn't even realize that you weren't wearing much at all. So like I said, it was the build up to it that was the most nerve wracking. I don't know for you, Jamie, what it was like, if it was the build up or as well being out there in general at the same time, but I'd say it was mostly the build up.
Totally. I completely agree. Also, I was with my boss, Jordan, over here. And I think when you were saying Jane earlier, like that also is kind of like, okay, I guess we're doing this. If this works, if this is what we have to do, we'll do it. But it was definitely the buildup. I was just here getting ready. I put on lingerie actually underneath this and just some sweats. And I walked there. And once I started meeting with the other girls, we were both kind of just talking, to each other. And then we were like, okay, let's do this. Like, we're ready. We're here. We're going to do this. And as soon as we took off our clothes and walked over there, and once we were just standing there, I really felt empowered, actually, is kind of the feeling that overcame the fear that I initially had.
Now, a lot of this talks about the violation of the sacred feminine in factory farming. The truth is that we are stealing the breast milk of cows when we drink dairy. I certainly don't drink it, but for those who do, and it's always ironic to me and disturbing when I see proud feminists engaging in consuming dairy. The meat and dairy industry have tried to associate dairy with femininity, so you have a lot of yogurt and dairy commercials that feature women stretching. And listen, the meat and dairy industry equates the consumption of meat and dairy with things that it has nothing to do with. Meat, masculinity, fast food, and all sorts of meat products with things like patriotism, family values, upward mobility, keeping up with the Joneses, all of this stuff it has nothing to do with, and they sexualize. We know, we've seen those ads of women who are scantily clad eating a cheeseburger like this is Americana. Why can't we do that too? Stefania?
Yo, definitely. That's the double standard that's going on, is when people are attacking the lingerie protest, they're talking about the sexualization of this topic. And it's just absurd because, like you mentioned with the yogurt ads, where they're eating yogurt in this sexual, sensual manner on TV ads, and it's got nothing to do with it. And they're sexualizing cheeseburgers with these models, with buxom models, and it's dripping down them. It's just ridiculous. It is so sexualized, and sexuality is used as a tool to sell these absolutely revolting and horrific products. So, hey, you know what? I'm going to take my sexuality back, the control of my body and bodily autonomy, and I'm going to use my sexuality to actually push what is right and to put an end to what's going on. Take that power back. And like Jamie said, it is really empowering. Once you get out there, you are empowered because you're doing it for a good cause. You're not doing it to sell these horrific products and get a paycheck as an actor or model in a TV ad.
And I want to ask Jordan, you put together a great film. We're so delighted to work with you at Unchained TV. I think, were very strategic in how you showed some of the exploitation of animals, but you didn't go too far. Like, as soon as somebody might go, oh, I can't look at that, because that's the whole problem, is getting people to look at the reality. It's almost impossible. The people who need to change don't want to look at those images. So you put them up for a few fleeting seconds and then you pull them off. Explain that, because we've got a few images here that aren't from your film, but are the same type of images, and people need to see them. But the trick is, how do you get them to see them?
It's really hard. And this was, one of the ways we could at least show some. But the idea, as you know, there's so much horrific footage. I have hundreds of hours of worth from activists around the world, from movies like Dominion. You name it. There's just more footage than I could ever fit into any movie I ever make. But the idea here was, I wanted to get the sense of what they were going through on the street with the activists in lingerie. Obviously, they were only holding up signs. People who were walking by weren't seeing this footage. So we really only showed the footage at the beginning to set the stakes of why they were doing it, and at the end to, have some sort of resolution to, some sort of, as they were giving their last statements, to show a little bit more. But in the middle, we didn't show it at all, and definitely did not want to show the most horrific, because honestly, we couldn't show it on social media. We got flagged for it, and you just can't show it, which is, there's hypocrisy there as well. So we just wanted to get a real sense of what they were going through at these protests around the world, in the moment. And I basically we shot some stuff here in New York, but we also collected footage from other activists and other passersby, and collected hours and hours of it to really get to the heart of what they were going through and what people were saying to them, what they were saying to people, and have it be as honest and real as we could make it.
And once again, if you missed it at the top, the lingerie protest, this is just a trailer. You can watch the entire thing on Unchained TV. Just go to your phone or your Apple TV device or Roku device. You can get it on your TV. You can get it right on your phone. Just put in Unchained TV.
Unfortunately, the media and the news seldom report on this topic.
In the dairy industry, the male calves are murdered.
It's not like we want to do these things. We feel that we have to.
We need to do whatever it takes to help wake people up, to make the unconscious conscious.
The future of our planet is at stake. And if I gotta go out there naked, I'll do that.
What a great job, all of you. You're all my heroes for doing this. Stefania, we only have a couple more minutes. Tell us how this has spread, because we have videos from all over the world now of people doing this. When did you know that your idea had gone viral?
I was quite surprised, to be honest. I did think that we would get, a fair bit of attention in person. I wasn't sure if it was going to be positive or not, but the fact that when we went out there and we did it in person and the response was really positive, that was fantastic. And then we put it on social media and the response was huge. And that was fantastic. And the next minute we started seeing groups of girls around the world, and some guys included, doing these protests in one corner of the globe, and then another in the months following. And to be honest, I don't really know how it happened, but it was fantastic and it was unexpected. And I'm still seeing it occurring now on social media more and more. Recently, I think it was at Christmas, on the Australian Reddit page, a group of lingerie girls in Sydney posted some images and they went viral on Reddit, on the Australian subreddit, which was incredible. So I guess it's got everything. It's got the sexuality, it's got the message, it's got also something that many people would be fearful of doing, which is going out there wearing very little and promoting a message. So I think a lot of people can't comprehend doing that. So it's got all those elements that came together and obviously had this viral effect in every sense.
Wow, amazing. Final thoughts, Jordan, what are your final thoughts on this?
I mean, just from talking to all the activists and watching all the footage over and over again for weeks, what I realized that it really was working. I mean, there's people who would walk right by if they were showing horrific footage and they weren't there, if they were, fully clothed. People just walk by and go about their day and keep eating the foods that they eat without thinking twice. And this really engaged people that may not have stopped otherwise. And once they started talking and explaining it to people, people were like, oh, I didn't know that, or I can't believe it. And who knows what they'll, if they'll change or not, but at least they'll now start thinking about it and hopefully plant some seeds.
Are you thinking of doing it? Are you getting ready? Getting your skivvies out?
I don't think that would help, but I would if I thought it would help. Yeah.
Keep me posted. All right. Final thoughts, Jamie.
Yes, I think you both, Jordan and Stefania, you said everything that was on my mind. But I guess one final thought I do want to leave you guys with is, we're out there, we're trying to plant seeds. We are living in a world where people are asleep. We are doing anything and everything we can to just get people thinking, to wake them up. I 4 years ago was one of those people, and I try to think back to the mindset that I was in then, and what would have caught my eye, what would have got me thinking. And I think that the people that were passing by, they saw the stakes of this issue. They respected, I think, the fact that, like, wow, we care about this issue so much that we are taking our free time to go out into the public streets and do this. And whatever it takes is kind of where I'll leave it.
Wow. Well, you are all my heroes. I am just absolutely blown away by your courage, your creativity, your ingenuity, your relentlessness. Let's follow this up. We're not going to stop following you, Stefania. I'm sure that you've got some great protests in your future, and we'll be there covering it.
Thank you so much.
Bye.